How the new Dalai Lama is chosen. We know how other religions choose their supreme leader, but only a few people know how the Dalai Lama is chosen. A process surrounded in mystery, tradition, and perhaps will be condemned to extinction because of interferences from the Chinese government and its conflicts with Tibet, and also due to its desire to control this region at all costs. When the 13th Dalai Lama, Thubten Gyatso, died, the succession process started and the wheel of reincarnation began spinning like a merry-go-round to find the new Dalai Lama. The body of the deceased 13th Dalai Lama was located with his head pointing south, but after a few days his head had turned to point towards the east, and these signals, together with visions experienced by those close to the last Dalai Lama, indicated the direction in which the search for the substitute should start. And so it was. Several representatives went out searching, and after a long time looking, they found a young candidate in a little village in the northeast of Tibet. When they found Tenzin, the most important Lama that had travelled with the representatives, posed as a servant and observed him for an entire day. The young boy recognized him immediately and called him by his name without meeting him before. The entourage came back some days later to test him on some matters. They showed him some objects, some of which were property of the last Dalai Lama. Things like clothes, books, teacups, rosaries, and so on. And he identified them again immediately. There was no doubt at all. Nothing to consider. This boy was the Dalai Lama. This all happened in 1937. He was ordained as a Buddhist monk and enthroned as the 14th Dalai Lama. Tibetans breathed in peace for years, but the calm wouldn't be permanent. China invaded Tibet in 1950 with the hope of pressurizing Tibetan representatives into signing terms recognizing Chinese sovereignty over Tibet. The Dalai Lama was exiled to India. He had to leave Lhasa forever. Here is when and where the problem starts. The invaders acknowledge the existence of the Dalai Lama, but they reserved the right to name him themselves. The Chinese government even has over 250 reincarnated Buddhas registered and studying, ready to be selected as the new Dalai Lama. This is an extremely serious matter because when in 1989 the Panchen Lama died, the Panchen Lama is the second most important Lama in Tibet after the Dalai Lama. The 10th reincarnation of the Panchen Lama was elected, Gedhun Choekyi, at 5 years old. But in 1995, he and his family were kidnapped. And nobody has heard anything of him ever since. In his place, the Chinese government placed another boy. The saga of the Dalai Lama is just reincarnation. He is free from political responsibility and he is only a spiritual leader. He has gone on record saying that he would choose a substitute before his death by voting in an election among the Lamas. This would end more than 500 years of tradition just to avoid Chinese intrusion. And this amazing process would never be seen again if Tibetans aren't allowed to have complete freedom of choice. A famous quote from the Dalai Lama: "Once a year I go to some place that I have never been to before, because without doubt This is the best way to enrich our soul and continue learning from what we know and what we don't.